ice, and a lot of multi-year ice, you would call it. It's stronger ice, I think, and the ice wouldn't move as much as it does nowadays. I mean, now the last 3 years, the ice has really been opening up close to town. Even, what was it, like January 9th, we had open water here 30 feet off the beach, the entire beach. And I know Robert was looking at it just as much as I was, because there was a giant flat spot that went out like 500 feet, and it was just flat for all the way across the beach, and it looked so nice. And then the next day, east winds 20 miles an hour, and the entire thing blew away. And then you're thinking, oh man. But I mean, ice conditions are going in and out all the time now, so you really have to pay attention to where those cracks are. I feel like there's more cracks that you have to watch nowadays, like Brower was saying, and you really have to pay attention to the conditions, the temperature, the wind direction, and knowing where the good ice is and where the weak ice is at. We rely a lot on our uncles to kind of show us what they know about the ice conditions, and then our own general experience, and kind of put two and two together. When we're sitting out there waiting for whales, there's a lot of time for discussion that happens. So we learn, at least I've been learning a lot from my uncles, just having them tell stories. Some of them serious, some of them funny, some of them really cool.
What kinds of things or methods are constant or have been constant or, have been the same?
As far as like hunting whales or life in general?
I would say maybe, since we're talking about whaling, maybe whaling, and then we could talk about more general, like, way of life or whatever after. I
think the one constant with whaling is that I don't think there's ever a notion within the community that, at least from my perspective, that whaling is ever going to stop for us. I really feel like our community, that's the heart of our community. That's what we really live by in Utqiaġvik. For that whaling season, there's a lot of us give up a lot for just that season in particular. And I guess it's more of a mindset than it is anything else. It's more of a, this is coming up. We know we have to do it. We know that our community needs it. It's food. It's always brings so much happiness and joy to the community. It really lifts the community up, and I think that's been a real constant for every whale that's caught. It really, the community, we live in a harsh environment up here, and when the whole community gets together and has something to celebrate for, like the catching of an iñupiat, called the blessing of an iñupiat, when it gives itself to you, and it's so uplifting, and I just remember this last fall everybody was hunting. Some of these guys were hunting for 6 weeks straight in aluminum boats, and then the crew finally struck the whale, and you could just almost feel the whole community kind of like exhale, like, all right, we got one, hopefully we can get more. And I remember being there. I was kind of sick, and I was watching the whale when they got done taking their pictures. I took a picture of the crew, and then 30 minutes later, that whole whale was gone. I mean, the entire community was so happy and so joyful, that just so excited to catch that whale, that everybody came out, and it was gone in no time. I think we were done sharing our share of the whale within 3 hours of them landing it on the beach. It was that quick.
Wow.
It really is almost, it really is the heartbeat of the community. It's what we live to do every year. I think it's a great tradition, and I don't see it going away anytime soon.
What I've changed is the consistency of the conditions, ice, weather, over the last 15 years or so. When I was younger, when I first started going out whaling, I remember going out must have been 15 miles or so. Might have been a little less than that, but I remember it took, at least 45 minutes straight out from town just to get to the ice edge. And I felt safe driving out there by myself. I was just a kid back then, and there was no issue with me going out there by myself just to go from the captain's house, my office house, all the way out to the camp, as long as, we communicated. But more recently, I don't remember going out more than 3 to 5 miles over the last 5 years or so, and those were some of the most unsafe conditions that I've ever seen. You didn't know if you were going to float out one day, and March and February, pretty consistently over the last few years, the ice has broken off within a quarter mile of shore. So that's a huge difference from 15 years ago to now. And it's pretty well documented too. So over the last few years, it's been difficult. Generally, the whales are a lot farther out than that on their migration path. So where we're setting camp up to traditionally hunt on the OMAP it's more difficult just because of the location that we're stuck with. If the ice breaks off there and the open lead is there, that's what we're held to. There are other options like going north, but that's outside of tradition really. So that's a pretty common occurrence now is the weather and ice changes. The ice is breaking off and is thinner. The weather's just generally not as cold. It's cold now. It seems to fluctuate, and it's been on average higher temperatures.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, when we were growing up, before we turned 20 or whatever, it always seemed like the ice was a constant. You always knew it was going to be good. You knew it was going to be there for spring whaling. The last 5 years that I've seen, it just seems like it's hit or miss. It's been really hard whaling when the ice conditions or ice is open less than a mile from town. The whales, from what I've seen, the whales don't come as close when the ice is that, or the open water's that close. I don't know if it's because there's so much more open water, or they just don't want to come that close to town, or I don't know what's keeping them out there when the ice is closer. 2 years ago, we did have a really good spring whaling, but our ice conditions were really good 2 years ago. I mean, just right on the edge, I think we were going out for 3 to 5 miles, and everybody had flat ice, and we had a really good spring season. But, the years other than that one, the last 5 years have been pretty tough. And the crews a lot of the crews that are catching whales in the spring now are up north. They're hunting with aluminum boats, so it's different. It's different now, and you can feel it right now. That we only got one whale in the fall time. The community only got one whale, and this next spring, you could feel that everybody wants to catch as soon as possible. It's people's freezers are empty.
Yeah, that's the first year I've ever gone whaling in November, personally, and it's also the first time I've ever had fishnets under the ice at the same time as our whaling. So it was definitely a different time.
Going to that subject, we have been. I feel like we've been fishing more and hunting tutu more because we didn't catch as many whales this last fall, so we spent a little bit more time fishing and catching other animals so that we had enough food for the winter, which is good. There's some changes with that too, though.
What are those?
I know the last few summers we've been getting a lot more salmon up here. A lot more. I mean, people are catching 50 salmon or more in just a couple of days or 1 or 2 days, where 10 years ago people were only catching 40 for the whole summer. And I think a lot of the salmon that I've seen a lot of them had worms in them. And I don't know if that's just because they're adapting to the new environment or what, but we are seeing a lot more fish up north, especially near Utqiaġvik. So it's something that I think we welcome. We like salmon, but I think that they have to adapt to our environment or the waters up here. And I don't know the specifics behind it, but I know that people are catching them left and right.
What kind of salmon are they?
A lot of them are chum, I think.
Yeah, there's a good amount of chum, a lot of humpies, the pink salmon, and this year they had a strong red salmon run up here, which is it's not really unheard of, but it's kind of unusual the amount of red salmon that came up here.
Yeah,
I know there was some silvers caught.
We're seeing a lot more kings than we used to.
Yeah,
King salmon.
Yeah. Occasionally, when we were younger, we would see, a king every now and then.
Yeah.
I want to say it was like every 5 years, but they seem to be a little more frequent now.
That's good news because they're dying off in the southeast, so at least they're going somewhere.
They're just moving up north.
Dang, man, we might get an influx of people. I didn't really think about that.
The salmon is otherwise uncommon in this area.
Yeah, you really didn't see too many. I was talking with Mike Ahmet, and he was telling me about how many fish he was catching when I first came back, like in 2013, 2014. He was saying, I catch about 3 or 4 this week, and I'll keep my net out until end of August or something, and you'll have 40 for the year. Now, I've seen guys that have caught like 50 to 101 set in 2 days. It's really incredible.
How about like uguruks and nutchucks? Changes in those?
Pretty consistent. Still seeing them, but I don't know what happened with the uguruks this last summer.
Yeah, we're generally pretty successful with seal, uguruks, nutchucks. But over this last year, or last summer in general, we caught one nutchuck that was raised some red flags that we ended up bringing them to get sampled from the wildlife department here. And also there was an uguruk that had some pretty noticeable
Sores?
It was a different color in the bones and also the fat.
Was it orange?
Yeah, it was orange, pretty bright orange, and we were not aware of any type of issue that uguruks have had like that before. So we'd contact the wildlife department for sampling.
Did they ever find out what was wrong with it?
We're still waiting back on that. I think that a pretty big concern with the community. It wasn't the only one caught like that here. So there were multiple, at least 2 other instances that I know of from different hunters with the same issue. So that one we're looking forward to hearing back on that matter.
I talked to some hunters in Wainwright, and they said that some other people that it sounds like the older ones, their fat turns a little bit more yellow, but this one was just bright orange and didn't look healthy to us. So we were going to eat it. I mean, I opened up all the way to the ribs, and I was like, I don't care, I'm going to eat it. I looked at the ribs, and I went, oh man, I can't chance it.
Can't do it.
Hey, man. I saw something like that on Facebook. Someone had posted, and somebody said that it might have just been a change of diet, like they were eating something else than what they normally eat.
Maybe salmon.
Yeah, salmon.
Yeah.
I also was reading something when I was researching to come here and about invasive species on caribou that were like making them sick in this past recent history, few years. Is that something that you guys have noticed? I know you said it seems pretty like a healthy population, but
I went to Canada back in 2013 or 2014, and I spoke with some Native community members over there, and they said as soon as the deer moved into the area, the caribou got like they couldn't mesh together. The deer would populate, and then the caribou would die off. And I don't remember the exact reason why, but their caribou had disappeared and deer had come in.
Interesting.
We haven't seen anything like that up here.
Not here.
Yeah, I don't know.